Greetings, fellow time travelers. Welcome back to Secrets of the Ancients, where we uncover the hidden mysteries of lost civilizations and dive deep into the secrets that shaped our world. I'm your archaeological guide, ready to take you on another mind-bending journey through the Hatshepsut. Today's discovery will challenge everything you thought you knew about one of history's most famous archaeological finds. We're diving into the tomb of King Tutankhamun, but this isn't the story you learned in school. This is the real story, filled with betrayal, stolen treasures, and secrets that remained hidden for nearly a century. Before we unveil these incredible secrets, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the ancient mysteries we're about to reveal. Picture this scene with me. It's 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. The Valley of the Kings is already home to dozens of royal tombs. But one small modest tomb is being sealed, the final resting place of the boy pharaoh, Tutankhamun. Little does anyone know that this tomb will survive untouched for millennia, while grander tombs around it are plundered and destroyed. But here's the puzzling question. How did this tomb survive when so many others didn't? The answer lies in a perfect storm of circumstances that archaeologists are only now fully understanding. Unlike the massive, elaborate tombs of other pharaohs, Tutankhamun's burial chamber was surprisingly modest and tucked away in an overlooked corner of the Valley of the Kings. By the time the great tomb explorations were underway, this area had already been extensively searched, or so everyone thought. What archaeologists discovered was shocking. The tomb's entrance had been completely buried under debris from the construction of a nearby tomb. For 3,000 years, this rubble acted as the perfect disguise. There were zero writings or identifying marks on the outside, nothing to indicate that beneath the rocks and sand lay one of history's greatest treasures. Time itself became the tomb's guardian, preserving its secrets until the 1920s, when a determined archaeologist named Howard Carter finally broke through. Now here's where our story takes a dark and thrilling turn. For decades, Howard Carter was celebrated as a hero of archaeology, a dedicated scientist who spent years searching for Tutankhamun's tomb and, when he found it, carefully documented every artifact for posterity. But, was Carter really the hero we thought he was? Recent discoveries paint a much more complex and controversial picture. Secret letters have emerged that suggest Carter may have been running what we might call a 10 for them, one for me policy with the tomb's treasures. Let me take you back to 1922. Carter has just discovered the tomb, and he's writing to his friend Sir Alan Gardner, a renowned philologist. In this letter, Carter mentions the discovery and asks for advice. Fast forward to 1934, and Gardner is writing back, thanking Carter for an amulet, a supposedly innocent gift. Here's where it gets interesting. Carter insisted the amulet didn't come from Tutankhamun's tomb, but evidence proved otherwise. The British director of the Egyptian Museum became suspicious and compared Gardner's amulet to others from the tomb. The result? A perfect match. Gardner himself was devastated. In another letter, he vented his frustration at being put in such a compromising position. Being a loyal friend, he didn't expose Carter publicly. Instead, he advised the archaeologist to quietly return the stolen artifacts to Cairo, advice that Carter may or may not have followed. But wait, it gets even more shocking. In 1947, a man named Alfred Lucas, who had worked alongside Carter, revealed something explosive in an obscure journal published in Cairo. According to Lucas, Carter had secretly cracked open the burial chamber door before the official opening. He examined what was inside, then carefully sealed it back up as if nothing had happened. Why would he do such a thing? The theory suggests that Carter and his team entered early to identify valuable artifacts they could discreetly remove. These items couldn't be sold during their lifetimes. That would be too risky. Instead, they were carefully held and only auctioned off after the individuals involved had passed away. Carter never officially confessed to these allegations. He also never officially denied them. But the Egyptian government wasn't taking any chances. They prohibited him from entering the tomb for a period, effectively acknowledging their suspicions. Recent research by French specialists has traced several missing pieces from the tomb. The ceremonial collar, which once rested on Tutankhamun's chest, was broken into pieces. Some fragments ended up at the Nelson Atkins Museum in Missouri, while other pieces were strung into a necklace that someone attempted to sell in 2015. The museum itself has confirmed this information on their website. Headdress beads from Tutankhamun's royal headdress were apparently stolen and restrung into a necklace, now held at the St. Louis Art Museum. And the glazed ceramic collar, this magnificent piece, spent years at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York before finally being returned to Egypt just over a decade ago. Now let's talk about one of history's most famous legends, the curse of King Tutankhamun. Shortly after the tomb was opened, stories began circulating that anyone who disturbed the boy pharaoh's rest would face terrible consequences. It became one of the most dramatic tales of the 20th century. But was there any truth to it? The main victim of this supposed curse was George Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon. This British aristocrat had funded Carter's search for the tomb. He passed away just 1 year after the tomb was opened, and people immediately blamed the curse. But here's what really happened. Herbert was already in poor health when he arrived in Cairo. Medical records show he succumbed to a common disease. Nothing mysterious about it. Let's look at the numbers, fellow truth seekers. There were dozens of people involved with the tomb's opening: security guards, archaeologists, support staff, and visitors. Yes, a few did pass away in the years following the discovery, but statistically, this is exactly what you'd expect from any large group of people over time. The average lifespan of those supposedly cursed was more than 20 years after the tomb was open. Herbert's own daughter lived until the 1980s, that's half a century later, and Howard Carter himself, he lived until 1935, a solid 16 years after the discovery. So where did this cursed story come from? Some historians believe it was actually a clever public relations strategy. Carter wanted to keep nosy reporters and tourists away from the excavation site. What better way than to spread rumors of a deadly curse hanging over anyone who entered the tomb? It worked brilliantly, perhaps too well. The legend of King Tutankhamun's curse became more famous than many of the actual artifacts. Despite the stolen artifacts and the sensational curse stories, Tutankhamun's tomb still yielded an incredible treasure trove that transformed our understanding of ancient Egyptian culture. Let me paint a picture of what archaeologists found. The iconic burial mask. This breathtaking piece stands 21 inches tall and weighs 22 pounds of solid gold, decorated with semi-precious stones and glass paste. It depicts the young pharaoh with a long ceremonial beard and the traditional headdress featuring a cobra and vulture, symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt. On the back, sacred spells from the Book of the Dead were inscribed to protect the pharaoh in the afterlife. The board games, Tutankhamun was apparently quite the game enthusiast. Archaeologists discovered 4 elaborate board games, some crafted from precious ivory. These weren't just toys, they were sophisticated strategy games that the elite of ancient Egypt enjoyed. The golden sandals. A pair of pure gold sandals was found in the tomb. These weren't practical footwear, they were ceremonial pieces that the pharaoh likely never wore in life. They were meant for his journey in the afterlife, ensuring he walked in splendor through eternity. The royal mannequin, perhaps one of the most fascinating discoveries, was a wooden mannequin used to select, adjust, and display the pharaoh's elaborate outfits and jewelry. This gives us incredible insight into the sophistication of ancient Egyptian fashion. The sacred trumpets, 2 ceremonial trumpets were discovered, providing rare evidence of ancient Egyptian music. These instruments were actually played once in a BBC broadcast in 1935, but today they're considered far too fragile to be handled. But fellow explorers, Tutankhamun's story is just one chapter in the incredible saga of ancient Egypt's Valley of the Kings. Recent discoveries are revealing secrets that make even the tomb of the boy pharaoh pale in comparison. Imagine this, you're standing in the scorching Sinai desert. Miles and miles of yellow sand stretch before you. Treeless mountain ridges shimmer in the heat. The sun beats down mercilessly. Now imagine something impossible. A tree-lined avenue, over 300 feet long, with more than 500 trees providing blessed shade in the heart of this barren wasteland. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it actually happened. Archaeologists recently made a discovery at a site called Tell Abu Seifi in the northern Sinai Peninsula that's rewriting everything we thought we knew about ancient Egyptian engineering. They found the remains of a massive military fortress, and leading to it was an actual green boulevard, paved with limestone